The Girl Who Built a Spider by George Brewington. Chapters 11 and 12. Chapter 11, Sustainability. Moving as slowly as if he had been sentenced by a judge to serve lunches to children until the sun burned out, Zachary carried a platter with 3 plates of spinach salads, topped with apples and roasted pecans, glasses of pineapple juice to drink, and a large wedge of pineapple for dessert. The plates were as edible as the salads piled upon them, as were the forks and knives. Teresa recognized the utensils and plates from the Flax Inventions for a Better World catalog because they were available for purchase every year. John ate his knife right away and was delighted that it tasted like a cinnamon graham cracker. Ashley chastised him for eating his knife first because he had left himself no way to cut his pineapple wedge into more appropriate chewable pieces. Unless he asked Zachary for another knife, which would probably take him more than an hour to retrieve. John didn't care. He wasn't afraid to use his hands during any meal. They sat in an ornate white gazebo beneath a magnificent skylight. The matching white wrought iron table where they sat looked familiar to Teresa, as it had been recycled from one of the mall's flower shops. The gazebo was surrounded by banana trees, concentric circles of roses, lemon and lime trees, and finally a ring of red, green, and yellow pepper plants that were just starting to produce. Brilliantly white snowy egrets searched for bugs in a nearby fountain, and there was the ever-present rushing of water through the walls. Teresa had never been in such a beautiful garden, inside or out. "May I bring you children anything else?" Zachary asked with a sigh. He seemed to be annoyed whenever he was required to address them directly. He replaced his work apron with a kitchen apron, which was also imprinted with the same pineapple and flax across the top. They all quietly said, "No, thank you," and he shuffled grumpily away. "I sure like pineapples here," John said before he started shoveling the salad into his mouth like someone was going to snatch it away from him. "Can you believe this place?" Ashley said to Teresa with genuine awe. "It's like a paradise for environmental scientists." Teresa was relieved when Ashley spoke to her. She thought she might still be mad at her for getting the bigger laboratory. "I wonder if this will be what the future looks like," Teresa said. "I hope I have a robot of my own in the future," John said. "I'll make him do all my dirty work while I kick back and make bubbles." "You'll need to learn how to program robots then," Ashley replied. Teresa thought of Thomas Edison, who seemed to need some reprogramming himself. "Do you think any of these inventions are dangerous?" Teresa asked them. "Like, really dangerous? So dangerous they should be destroyed?" "We're in a laboratory," Ashley said matter-of-factly. "The inventions here aren't ready for the public. They're all in the experimental stage, so of course they could be dangerous." It was hard for Teresa to imagine anything in this beautiful place being harmful, but Thomas Edison seemed awfully certain something here had to be destroyed. She tried to put the thought out of her mind. Ashley stared at John disapprovingly as he ate his salad by the handful. "What are you two inventing?" Ashley asked, trying to make polite, appropriate conversation. "I'm making my spider better than ever," Teresa said excitedly. "I want her to shoot grappling hooks and climb. I'm going to add skis to her feet, too." Not sure how a toy spider makes the world a better place," Ashley said, deflating Teresa's enthusiasm just like that. "What about you, Buzz?" John lit up. "I'm working on a bubble organ. It's going to be a huge pipe connected to an organ that releases colored bubbles in time with the music you play, and it's going to be massive. The prototype will be 3 feet long, and then I'm going to ask the doctor if we can build one that's huge." "Like how big?" Ashley asked. John thought about it. 100 feet long." Ashley shook her head. "That sounds as useful to environmental science as a spider that can shoot grappling hooks." "Okay, hot shot," John said. "What are you making?" Ashley cleared her throat proudly. "Way more Ashley Dean's Edible Algae brand products. Tortillas, chips, and even cookies made from algae with all different flavors, maybe even chocolate. So exciting, John said sarcastically. I'm sure everyone will line up for miles to buy chocolate algae cookies. Never underestimate the power of a cookie, Dr. Flack said as he appeared from behind a lemon tree. He had dried off and put on a fresh pair of excessively pocketed white overalls. The doctor was very good, it seemed, at appearing unexpectedly. How is your lunch? To your liking? They all nodded enthusiastically. Let me introduce a concept for you three to discuss while you eat. Sustainability. Who can define it? Teresa Spider was powered by a solar battery. She knew this one. Sustainable resources are ones that don't ever run out, like solar or wind power. That's right, Miss Brown. It was another definition I like as well. John? Ashley? Hazard a guess? Ashley raised her hand confidently, and the doctor pointed to her. Sustainable also means to be able to stay the same, to be maintained, to keep something going. Very good, Miss Dean. I like your choices of words very much. To be maintained. Ashley smirked at Teresa like she'd won another point or something. Did this whole summer have to be a competition between them? You three finish up your lunches, and then, if you would, join me in the flower garden outside your laboratories. I'd like to introduce you to one of my new inventions. Then he turned and called out toward the kitchen. Zachary? Hello, Zach? Is there any salad left? Yes, Uncle, he groaned from the kitchen. I have a plate waiting for you here, as always. Don't forget to eat your forks, the doctor said as he strolled away. John already had. Chapter 12. Bees. The flower garden was a narrow strip of lush and sweet-smelling blooms that stretched from one end of the western wing of the laboratory to the other. It was bursting with yellow jasmine and pink bougainvillea, red roses and orange daisies, and blue wildflowers peeking out through the grasses. When they arrived, they found Dr. Flax sitting on a large crate in the middle of the stone sidewalk that meandered through the flower beds. The crate was buzzing. Come closer, young colleagues. Nothing to be afraid of. Teresa didn't know whether to believe him, but the three of them took seats in the grass in front of the doctor and the crate. To maintain, to sustain. In our society continues to deplete trees and clean water and other resources without replacing them. Then more and more animals and insects are extinguished due to the lack of those resources. How can we maintain our ecosystem? What if, God forbid, we don't transform into solar and wind-powered civilization fast enough? What options will we have? We'll all go to Mars, John shrugged. Ashley scoffed, but Dr. Flax pointed to him enthusiastically. Yes, indeed, Mr. Cooper. If we fail, we will eventually have to find another planet to call home. But that is our most expensive option and presently requires technology we do not have. He patted his hand on the crate, and it buzzed even louder. While we wait patiently for our society to make that transition, how can we maintain? Well, for one thing, we will have to replace the most important species on this planet. Any guesses as to what that species might be? I'll eliminate one of them for you. It is not our dear Homo sapiens. Teresa thought she might know. The buzzing crate was a big clue. The bee? She guessed. That's right, Miss Brown. Good thinking. The common but quite essential honeybee. Without the honeybee, there is no pollination for our food crops, and without crops, we soon perish. However, with a theatric wave of his hand, Dr. Flax lifted the lid of the crate. Teresa didn't know whether to step back or step forward to have a look. Before she could decide, hundreds of small, metallic creatures rose out of the crate, buzzing and flying together in a chaotic swarm. The things had silver wings, metallic yellow bodies, each with a single black stripe, and very tiny, glowing, unnatural red eyes. They were robotic bees. Their swarm began to change into an organized and very precise formation. They soon unified to become a buzzing yellow arrow hanging in the air, and the arrow was pointed directly at Ashley. "Oh my," the doctor said, as he realized their intention. "Whoa!" John yelled in awe. He was loving every second. "Why are they doing that? Why are they pointing at me?" Ashley asked nervously, stepping backward. As she retreated, the bee arrow advanced toward her. She stepped back 3 steps, and the arrow of bees buzzed forward 3 steps. "Miss Dean," the doctor said cautiously, "perhaps you'd better take cover behind that trellis of bougainvillea. I designed these robotic bees to simulate real bees. They are programmed to seek out contrasts in bright colors and sweet floral scents. They seem to be attracted to the pink polka dots on your blue dress and the very floral perfume you've chosen to wear today." Ashley screamed. She turned and dived behind the trellis as she covered her head, but the arrow of bees followed her and then swarmed around her body. In only seconds, Ashley was completely covered. Teresa was horrified. "Turn them off, Dr. Flax!" Ashley screamed. "Turn them off!" The doctor picked up the crate and tried to scoop them out of the air, but to no avail. "Each bee has its own individual on-off switch on its belly. I'm afraid I can't turn them off collectively. I now very much regret this design flaw." Ashley screamed again as she crawled under the ground behind the trellis. The bees covered every inch of her, and it appeared that they might even suffocate her as they covered her nose and mouth. Then Teresa had an idea. "John, your colored smoke bubble maker. Go get it." John jumped up. "Good thinking." John's laboratory was just 1 door down from the flower garden, and Teresa's was only 4 doors farther. John ran to get his bubble maker, and Teresa flew to her lab to get the shop vacuum normally used for cleaning up. "Don't worry, Miss Dean. Don't worry." The doctor kept shouting as he grabbed the bees one by one, turning off the switches on their underbellies. Unfortunately, there were hundreds of them. "Oh dear," he said. "This will take a while." Teresa rolled her shop vacuum as fast as she could back to the flower garden, where Ashley was now curled up in a ball, screaming into her hands. John returned and stood his bubble maker on its end. Then he lit the colored incense in each of its inset pods. Soon the large bright bubbles of smoke floated out at the top, colliding with one another, becoming smoky orbs inside smoky orbs, yellow inside blue, green inside red, purple inside orange. The robotic bees liked these contrasts of colors very much, and slowly but surely began to turn from Ashley toward the rainbow of smoke bubbles. When the mechanical bees touched them, the bubbles popped, and the bees grew calmer once they were engulfed in the colorful smoke. Teresa searched for a place to plug in her shop vacuum. "There's an outlet under that turtle," the doctor said urgently, stuffing his pockets with his dysfunctional bees. Sure enough, when Teresa lifted a box turtle that was sunbathing on a fake rock, she found an outlet. She plugged in the vacuum and began to suck the robotic bees into it. It took a while, but soon she had the bulk of them. "Well," Dr. Flax said, looking very much relieved, "I count us all fortunate that I hadn't yet given the bees stingers. Miss Dean would have been quite well punctured if I had." Ashley lay on the ground in a bit of shock with her face still in her hands. She didn't dare open her eyes. Then she yelled, "Ah!" Dr. Flax jumped in surprise at her impressively high-pitched scream. "All right," he said. "Clearly Miss Dean has been through quite an ordeal. Perhaps that's enough talk about sustainability and bees. Let's all get back to work on our inventions, shall we?" The doctor quickly backed away from the scene, and they all returned to their laboratories. Teresa heard John burst out with a laugh behind her, but she tried to ignore it for Ashley's sake. Back in her lab, Teresa finished up the installation of grappling hooks on her spider. She turned up her Disney musical station and was soon lost in her work. But for the rest of the afternoon, she wondered if she should go check on Ashley. She didn't want to embarrass her, though. When she was happy with her spider's new twin web shooters, she gave them a try by firing them at a large cardboard box full of headlamps. Success! The hooks grabbed hold, and she was able to reel in the box like a spider pulling in its prey. She was quite proud of her work and wanted to show the doctor, but when she looked at the clock, it was already 5 minutes to 5. She walked out to the front entrance and didn't know what to say when she took her spot next to Ashley and John. They stood there quietly, looking out over the pineapple fields, waiting for their parents' cars. Thankfully, breaking the silence, Ashley started giggling for no explicable reason. "You know," she said, "maybe I should be the one called Buzz." John and Teresa burst into laughter. It wouldn't have been funny if it hadn't been Ashley who had said it.